So you've probably heard the news. Yep, Miss Maxwell has been arrested. That is Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman, in case you weren't sure. She was the handler that was, I guess, responsible for some of the recruitment of the women that were victimized. This is a hard thing to talk about for me. I mean, I have a daughter, and this is a terrible thing to consider. But that's one of the reasons why I'm celebrating her capture. And a lot of people were surprised. I'll admit that I was. Yeah, the last I knew, nobody knew where she was at. Then suddenly we get a shakeup in a court, one that the liberals didn't like, and then, oh, lo and behold, the very court system where the shakeup occurred suddenly made a big move. How long did we know where she was? Why was the left not moving on her? Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think that they just couldn't have imagined that Trump was going to make his move. He was going to put a white hat in that position. He was going to take over and do their job. Beautiful, really. You know, they raised up a whole bunch of bogus BS crap about Trump. Like, oh, we got an investigation about X, Y, and Z. Like more Russian crap, right? Fake stuff. But they thought that would shield them, and it didn't. And I just love it. You know, some people have been asking me, do I think Jeffrey Epstein is alive or do I think he's dead? And, you know, most people are going to say, yeah, he's obviously dead. It was in the news, right? But I'm not so sure. It's just so convenient the way all that happened and played out, right? Jeffrey Epstein, world's most notorious criminal, sex island with underage women, sex trafficking. Some of the world's most powerful people were his friends. Bill Clinton, you know, Prince Andrew, a lot of people that this man, you know, rubbed shoulders with. And so he gets arrested and then tries to commit suicide in jail, survives that, and then tries again. How does that make sense? Imagine you're the warden and this is your jail and you get a knock on your door and like, sir, we've got a problem. I'm like, what is it? Well, it's Epstein, sir. Well, what about Epstein? He's lying on the ground almost dead. I mean, that's your call. What do you do? Because for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 eyes on him at all times. I don't care what he's doing. Maybe 4 or more. Like, I would never, ever leave that man alone again. I mean, his crimes are horrendous. And they involve some of the most powerful people on the planet. Clearly, the world has a vested interest in somebody like that facing justice, but he didn't. And then your next recourse would be to figure out what happened. Give me the security tapes. I want to see the footage. Well, sir, there is no footage. What do you mean there's no footage? The cameras, they're just not working. What world does this happen in? You start digging into the guards and you start finding all the weird stories with them. Even allegations of guards sleeping in a prison. Does it get more controlled and structured than a prison? It's a prison. But I guess not. So the only thing that makes sense to me is that he was either murdered or he's in the witness protection program. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it also makes sense in a way. What if Epstein was kind of a middleman? You know, a mover and shaker, somebody that connected different people, but not really the brains behind the operation. You know, what if he was just a middleman? And for the last year and a half, while he's been dead, he's been helping to build a case against others. I mean, there's no real proof of that's happening, but it would make other things more sensible. Like why there was no real follow-up investigations into how all of that happened. I mean, what happened to the cameras? I mean, who were these guards that were sleeping? Did they get injections of cash into their private bank accounts? I mean, was there bribery involved? I mean, we've heard nothing since. I mean, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? I mean, it's Jeffrey Epstein. But no, and Bill Barr is a straight shooter. I really respect him, and, you know, he's not really hit this issue at all. So it would make sense in that way. It would help tie up some loose ends and make me feel better too. But even if he's not alive, because it'd make me feel better because I want the others that are connected to him to go down as well. But even if he's not alive, we still have Maxwell. We still have her. We got her yesterday, and so hopefully she sings like a canary. Hopefully she tells us just how deep this poisoned well goes. Who all drinks from those poisoned waters? Because those women deserve justice. You know, I have a daughter. I can't imagine what they went through. It's horrifying to consider. And it makes me very uncomfortable talking about it, but I think the greater injustice is not talking about it. They had to endure and live it. So I'm praying that we're able to bring in all of the guilty parties and individually try them and convict them, so as to send a message to others that if you victimize children, this is what's going to happen to you regardless of your place and station in life. That's the right thing to do. But also it serves a good political purpose, and it's kind of convenient that it's happening here on July the 3rd, 2020, as we approach our November election. The news cycle has shifted so dramatically since the beginning of the year to now it's almost unrecognizable. America itself is becoming unrecognizable. We have cities literally being torched by angry, chanting mobs. We have small sections of cities like Seattle being cut off from everywhere else and declared sovereign areas with a bunch of hippies. Watching Chaz getting re-liberated was a beautiful thing, I gotta say. But there's so much chaos going on right now, and it's happening all over the country. The news cycle is focused on America burning, and I think it's intentional. The goal is to force people to acknowledge that Donald Trump's America is an unstable, horrible place, and Joe Biden offers an alternative. Back to the glory days of Obama. Yeah, the glory days of empowering China. The glory days of not standing up for the American worker, outsourcing all of our wealth and all of our manufacturing. You know, if Joe Biden knew how to make America so great, then why didn't he tell Obama? Joe Biden doesn't even know where he's at any point in time in the day. You know, Joe Biden looks like he's literally losing his mind right in front of us in slow speed. He forgets where he's at. He's given notes on reporters to call, and he literally is not supposed to let us know that, but he's telling people, I've got these names here. Is Alex from AP here somewhere? I mean, seriously? That's going to be the guy negotiating our trade deals? That's going to be the guy that's going to be making calls for national security? That dude? No, he's going to be doing whatever his liberal advisors tell him to, and the people that are going to surround him are going to be individuals that are picked for him, and he's literally just going to be an empty suit that signs his name on whatever legislation other people draft. It's going to be a nightmare. And he's going to get at least 2 Supreme Court picks, maybe 3. 3 of the most liberal judges you can imagine. Oh, it's absolutely constitutional for people to break away and create their own sovereign nation of Chaz. I mean, Lord knows how bad it could get. Because if the Supreme Court gets lost and becomes a liberal bastion, then this country is effectively dead. Every executive order that gets signed by a Democrat president will be protected by the Supreme Court. It will be challenged by a district court controlled by liberals, sent to a Supreme Court controlled by liberals, and we will never, ever be able to do anything about it unless by some miracle we can get 2/3 majority in the House, 2/3 majority in the Senate, and make some kind of a legislative Hail Mary to bypass the Supreme Court. We can't let that happen. And so all of these fake Republicans out there attacking our president right now make me sick to my stomach. I mean, they're okay subjecting America to rule by Joe Biden. They're okay with it, clearly. The rewriting of our history books, the tearing down of our national monuments, and just the intellectually dishonest arguments that the left are just throwing out there, assuming that the American public are too dumb and dim-witted to be able to understand they're being bamboozled. Look, having Confederate monuments does not mean that we want to be Confederates ourselves, okay? Just because there's a Confederate monument in my city that I want to protect doesn't mean that I'm suddenly, rooting for General Lee to break away from the Union. Think about it. What purpose does a Confederate monument serve in 2020? Well, two big ones. Number one, it reminds us where we were so we can value where we are. It reminds us who we were so we don't become that again. Those are important lessons, right? And I think that they both matter. But more importantly, they draw a connection between the historical past of the area in which people live so they don't forget what makes that area special. They want to whitewash everything. Probably not the best term to use in today's politically correct environment, but that's what they want to do. They want to destroy the lines that separate all things. There's a term for that called sameness that was in a book that I read a long time ago called The Giver. In that society, everyone dressed the same. Everyone basically did everything the government told you at all times. You weren't allowed to question anything. Isn't that the liberals' dream? Look at what they do to people that don't lockstep to their ideology. They turn on them universally, and you just trash them with ad hominems, personal attacks. Republican senators and Republican lawmakers are absolutely scared of the liberal mob. It's pretty clear. Look at that coward from the state of Oklahoma, Lankford, trying to argue that we should get rid of Columbus Day and replace it with Juneteenth Day. What a coward. June what day? Are you serious? Sit your butt down. You clearly have lost your spine. Quit giving up every single time you're challenged by these raving lunatics on the left. Yes, they're going to froth and they're going to scream and they're going to make asses of themselves. But it doesn't mean we give up. What future do our children have that we can guarantee them if we're just going to surrender everything that we stand for and believe to the first sign of active resistance that we see? No. Conservatives need to get a lot tougher. We've been way too easy with the liberals. And I think it's in our nature. Conservatives aren't trying to change the way other people think. We're live and let live, man. We're the party of freedom. We'll accept everyone and anyone. You want to make the best of your life and the opportunities that America provides for you. Enjoy financial security and celebrate freedom. Have a firearm to defend your family and your home. Come on over to the conservative camp. We don't care what race you are, what color you are, or anything like that. It's a great party. But when you go over to the left, all it is racial politics and racial identities. Black people are this, black people are that. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. Do the left not see that is holding them back? When you tell people what they are, they become what you've told them. When you put these intellectual paradigms in people's minds that you can't do this because you're black, or you can't do this because they have white privilege, you are literally teaching them to limit themselves based on what they're being instructed to believe. And none of it's true. What's really ironic is the left project everything onto others. Like I was saying about Obama's administration projecting their allegations of corruption and collusion onto Trump when they were the ones colluding with a foreign intel agent. It's the same thing with this whole white privilege. White privilege? Are you kidding me? What's our white privilege? To get our asses beat in the street and not be able to fight back? Like that poor couple that just got arrested just the other day. They have a lady screaming at them, following them outside to their car, screaming at them in their car. They get in the car, roll up the window, try to drive away. The lady stands behind the car so they can't leave, starts hitting the window, right? And then threatening to beat their ass until they actually have to pull out a weapon to be able to ensure their safety. And then, of course, they're the ones that get arrested. Why? Because they're white. And the district attorney felt like, we need to send some kind of a message to America that white people, you can't defend yourself. Bated breath, panic, panic, panic. Has nothing to do with whether what they did was legal or not. It's about the optics, which is the exact opposite of justice, mind you. Why does all that happen? Cowardness. Our leaders have become cowards, and our district attorneys have become corrupt. They will let certain things slide, even though it's a clear violation of the law. It is clearly unacceptable to burn down convenience stores. When did we call that protesting? That's called terrorism, okay? It's not protesting. It's ridiculous. Every damn criminal from now until the end of time, every time they get caught breaking a law or doing something, they're just going to claim it's a protest. Why did you rob that man's house? White privilege. Black Lives Matter. Release them. Why did you attack that lady? Because slavery. Literally, that was an excuse that a man gave for raping a white woman. You can Google it. He raped her because of slavery. It happened 200 years ago. But hey, whatever excuse works, right? It's sickening. The left project everything onto people that affects them. They're the ones that have privilege. Black privilege is a thing. You know, if two people apply for jobs and one's black and one's white and all things are equal, education, work experience, the black man's getting the job. It's called affirmative action. It's law. That's quite literally black privilege. But no. Whites are the ones that are privileged, right? Ridiculous. Absolutely. But we're not allowed to even say that. We're not allowed to say it's ridiculous. We're not allowed to fight against the talking point because that's politically incorrect and that's called hate speech, right? We have to lockstep with their ideology or we get universally attacked. That is mob rule. And that is why our Republicans are not defending us. Our Republican leaders are not defending us. It's because they understand the rules and they follow them. Well, you know what? I'm a rule breaker. I don't want to follow them. I'm going to speak my mind. I encourage you to do the same. Our president has set the example for us. Real speech is true speech. It's not hate speech. There's nothing hateful about telling the truth. And Republicans are not racist people. We want everyone to succeed truthfully. The last thing we care about is race. We care about individuals, effort, work. We take pride in who we are and what we can accomplish and what we can do. And we encourage others to do the same. We want to make America great. We want to make our families great. We want to make our communities great. The left literally and figuratively want to burn them down. So this is an important election cycle. I pray that as the story with Maxwell begins to develop, we are going to start to watch the news cycle shift a little bit more away from Orange Man Bad. And the press will have to actually start doing their job again and reporting things that matter. You know, both ways. And heaven forbid, actually have to start criticizing the left about anything. When's the last time you've watched a CNN story where they've called out a left senator or a leader on the left for virtually anything? I honestly can't remember. It's been that long. Like before Obama. That's broken. History is going to look at our time. They're going to say, you know, one of the biggest problems with that era of Americans isn't that they had bad people or bad citizens. It's that big business, huge conglomerates of media corporations were formed that took free press and murdered it. We don't have free press anymore. We have protected press, which is part of the problem because they are protected. But what we're protecting is their bias. What we're protecting is their ability to sell us fake news and false narratives. It's ridiculous. Who figured out how to game that system? The liberals. Because they will lie, cheat, and steal their way to power every single time, which is the reason why we've got to put the brakes on this mail-in ballot thing. And have you seen the news about all of the corruption, all of the arrests? Postal workers and you name it, for fraudulent ballot rigging activities. And this is just a primary. Has to stop. Because if Donald Trump does not win this next election, I'm afraid that my children are not going to have a country to grow up in that's even recognizable to the one that I grew up in. And then I grew up in the 1980s. That's not long ago. Kind of is, but you get my point. America's dying. We got to start speaking up and defending it. Who cares if the left are going to attack us for it? They're going to attack us anyways. They have really dark and bad things planned for Christian Americans. Spend some time on our knees, repenting from our sin, praying for our families and praying for the future of this country. And keep an eye on this news with Maxwell. All right, this is a long video. Thanks if you hung out this long with me. I appreciate your time. If you like or agree with the things that I'm talking about, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. I'm trying to build a community. And see you next time.